Welcome to the Wow MD podcast, where in each episode you will get in 30 minutes or less valuable pearls about holistic wellness, anti-aging, hormone therapies, beauty trends, and other facts you should know about our medical healthcare system and your health that no one is telling you. My name is Dr. Mirala Chernayanu. I am a conventional board-certified OBGYN physician who, after the loss of my father due to a careless and uncaring medical team, decided to retrain and seek certification in anti-aging and restorative therapies. What I know, I am happy to share with you. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD, the WOW MD episode. This episode and the next week's episode will dive deeper into the health insurance market and your health expenses, and hopefully will provide you with a much more clear view of what you should consider when you budget your health expenses and maybe how you should budget them. In the last episode, I recapped how important self-care is for optimal well-being. And I made the point that if most of us will engage in daily self-care, we would likely be healthier and require less expensive medical services. Does that mean that healthcare expenses will be lower? No, far from it. Us getting healthier has nothing to do with the forces that drive the health insurance market. Any treatment for serious illness, trauma, or cancer requires expensive tests for diagnosis and very expensive treatments and medications and surgeries whose price is determined by big pharmaceutical companies and the hospital corporations, which is driving this huge surge in costs. I spoke in the past of hospitals being in network, but hiring doctor groups ran by corporations who intentionally chose to be out of network so they can bill true value of what they believe their services should be and not be confined by the health insurance in-network low reimbursement. This is something many people have come to face, myself included, as they have gotten their bills from their hospitalist, their anesthesiologist, their ER doctor, or their ICU doctor. Obviously, this should be regulated by some form of law, and there are some limitations on how much they can fleece you regarding this. But guess what? If you are smart and feisty, you can request and perhaps be allowed the in-network lower rate. Many people don't even know that this is a possibility. They don't even ask. They either pay or they go in debt paying their hospital bills. The truth is, no one is thinking about saving for health expenses. Many cannot save anything at all, as their payment for their health insurance premiums are already too high for their budget. Like the patient I mentioned in the last episode, who very sadly admitted that her family's health insurance monthly premium was higher than their mortgage. Now, this is California. Homes are more expensive than anywhere else in the US. So she was already paying a lot of money, and now she had to pay even more for their health insurance. So there's no money left to spend on anything health-wise that was not covered by her health plan. And here's another fallacy or false belief. Many people, if not almost all people, believe that health insurance is going to keep them healthy. This could not be further from the truth. Many wait for Medicare to save them and believe that they will be covered by Medicare. Well, Medicare requires a 20% coinsurance, meaning you have to cover 20% of all covered expenses, which is costing many close to $1,000 a month for their premium if they want PPO insurance. And many, if not everyone, believes that the secondary insurance on top of Medicare will cover whatever Medicare will not cover. And this is where they are wrong. I found out quite recently, at the end of last year, that if Medicare declines a medical service as not covered, the secondary PPO, even though it cost you an arm and a leg to get it, will also decline that medical service. Now, So what can we, the normal people who need health insurance, but also need to stay healthy to avoid using and needing the health insurance, what can we do? Well, it's been very clear to all the private doctors or privately owned small groups of physicians for a very long time what are the healthcare cost issues impacting their patients. Because when you are involved in the day-to-day operations, the cost analysis, the profit analysis of the medical practice, you're an owner or a co-owner of the practice, you understand, you get face to face, you confront the serious financial burden that the patients have. And you see objections brought on a daily basis by everyone who comes in debating and arguing for their healthcare expenses with the doctor's office. And if you do go to see a physician who is employed, a physician who works 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., who is paid a salary, a physician who is told how many patients to see a day, how much time is allowed for each patient, a physician who can only recommend therapies that are approved by your health insurance plan, please be aware that they do not see, they do not understand or feel your pain. These physicians who are employed physicians working for corporations are completely removed and isolated from the process of billing, collecting, or considering healthcare expenses. They really don't worry very much if you don't show up for the follow-up. The front office will keep their schedules so full, they barely have time to cope with day-to-day and clicking all the boxes their electronic medical record demands for proper documentation. 1 to 2 patients less a day, it's actually better for them. They cannot spend time and energy caring about your health or your lack of health, and they will not have the time to spend educating you or guiding you on your path from getting deeper and deeper into inflammation, metabolic decline, and serious illness because they have to run to the next patient. I mean, honestly, we all have to do that, whether we're employed or private, but we do have a little bit more time when you're private. You, the patient, have to educate yourself on all matters regarding your health, how to maintain it, and how to get from the path of decline and aging back to optimal well-being by being your own advocate rather than waiting for the doctor to tell you what to do. You should know the basics of what your plan covers, and you should enter each doctor's office prepared for your copay and prepared to receive a bill reflecting your coinsurance and your deductible after each visit. I've spoken about these numbers before, and they are so important. I will remind them to you very briefly, any chance I have, and I have a chance in today's episode, so I'll do it, because they're so important to budget and to know when it comes to your health expenses. And I honestly cannot believe in today's day and age, there still are people who use their health insurance card, they come into the office, they present it to the front, and they have no knowledge of these 4 main numbers they need to know, which come with their insurance plan. And obviously, once you find out these numbers, and we are happy to tell you these numbers every time you come in, because we can see them online, please write them on your cell phone. It's already chained to your pocket or your purse nowadays. You carry it everywhere you go. Once you have them, they are established at the beginning of January for that plan, and they will probably be different at the beginning of next year. But you need to know these 4 numbers. And they are your copay, your coinsurance, your deductible, and your maximum out-of-pocket cost. What is the copay? Well, pretty much all medical practices will demand payment upfront for the copay. And very simply, your copay is what you have to pay every time you see a doctor. It doesn't matter that your doctor is seeing you for a refill, for a follow-up visit, for a blood pressure check, for a B12 shot, for a pre-op appointment, for an obstetrical visit. Every time you come to the doctor's office, if you want to use your insurance plan to bill for the visit, you have to pay your copay. What is your coinsurance? Your coinsurance is a percentage of the healthcare cost of the medical service you receive, which will be your responsibility. The coinsurance can be as low as 10% and as high as 40%. That means whatever health expense you have, a visit, a diagnostic procedure, a lab test, a surgery, a hospital admission, it will cost you 10, 20, 30, or 40% of what is the negotiated rate for that specific plan. The lower tier and cheaper plan you chose, the more expensive the coinsurance will be. Likely a bronze tier will have a 40% coinsurance, a silver tier will have a 30%, a gold tier will have 20%, and a platinum plan, which very few can afford nowadays, will have a 10% coinsurance. The third number, please remember, this is a very important number, the deductible. The deductible is the amount that you have to pay before your health insurance plan will actually pay any expenses outside of the copay and outside of your coinsurance. And regardless of these two numbers, your copay and your coinsurance will count towards your deductible, of course. And you probably know that deductibles can be as high as $5,000. I've seen plans with $8,000 deductible. At that point, the only way you will meet that deductible is when a serious illness, trauma, surgery, or God forbid, cancer will cross your path and you will need expensive services. That is why that deductible is there, and that is what you need to save and have in your bank account ready to go each year at the beginning of the year. Last but not least, the maximum out-of-pocket cost is a predetermined by law limited amount of money, let's call it a ceiling, that you must pay before your insurance will pay 100% of your in-network healthcare expenses for the remainder of the year. For example, in 2026, this maximum out-of-pocket is $10,600 for an individual and $21,200 for two family members. So now that you have more clear information about these four magical numbers, I hope, well, if you're driving or doing something, obviously you can't stop. But if you have a pen and paper, please write them down. Please put them somewhere. Copay, coinsurance, deductible, maximum out-of-pocket. When you get an insurance plan and you have a card, you need to know these numbers. Now, in an ideal world, the patient would come in, ask for a medical service, receive it. The medical practice would generate that encounter, which will be billed to the insurance company, and payment should be awarded or would be awarded to the doctor within 2 weeks. In an ideal world, your doctor will be paid fair and square by the insurance plan you chose. And in an ideal world, everything will be clear to you as far as what is covered and not from the moment you check in at the front office, or at least check out on your way out, until you receive the bill to pay the remainder of your coinsurance, deductible, or maximum out-of-pocket. In an ideal world, there will be no haggling over copays or coinsurance, or over why do I owe money for medical services when you use an insurance plan. In an ideal world, patients would promptly pay for services owed, and when they come to see the doctor again and find out they have a balance on account, which resulted from the insurance being billed and pushing additional financial responsibility on you, the patient, according to your plan, ideally, patients would not argue or haggle over, why do I have to pay? I haven't gotten a bill yet. I don't believe I have to pay until I need to see the bill and understand why I got it. And they would simply pay. Unfortunately, we do not live in an ideal world, and there's always haggling over cost. And interestingly enough, even though we have no control over this because we, the physician's office, are not setting any costs at all, it's the insurance plan who sets these costs, it feels embarrassing. It feels like we're at a bazaar. It is embarrassing for the medical staff to sometimes have to pull the doctor out of a room to deal with the patient because they refuse to pay their bill. And the staff doesn't know what to do. Should we continue seeing this patient? They already don't want to pay their bill. Why would we provide more care when they don't want to pay? And it happens quite often. Now, many, if not all patients have no idea why they come to the doctor and why they're confronted with a copay and a balance on account at the same time. And let me explain why that happens. Hopefully this will help you clear some of the clouds that are over why do you have to pay before you even get a bill. Well, by the time the billing for your medical service is generated, it could be a few days to a few weeks, the billing department will receive it and process it, and then the insurance plan will review it, approve it, deny it. Sometimes this is a few weeks, sometimes a few months. When the biller receives the claim or the payment decision back from the insurance, it will post it to your account, which will come across to the front office. So they're prepared when you come in to see the doctor, and they know what your balance is. However, the billing company working for the doctor's office will generate your personal bill once a month when they close their accounts for the month. It will probably go out the first, the second week of the month. It could take a week or two to get to you, and it's another week or two for you to pay it. So is it fair to ask the doctor to continue your care and bill for services you will want to continue receiving when you are in arrears and you don't want to pay the payment due? Not really. And the delay in paying your bill and the need to see that bill in your hands when the doctor's office already knows what you owe is seriously crippling the doctor's office. If every single one of their patients would refuse to pay their balance owed and would need to wait and see the bill, it will be a problem. The health insurance plan has already made a determination of your responsibility, communicated with your doctor what your payment remains to be for that date of service and what your responsibility is. You would show respect for your doctor and staff if you paid promptly when asked. And to be honest, I don't blame doctors who refuse to see patients who have a balance and then ask them to reschedule and come back when they're ready to be up to date with their balance. It might sound heartless, and somewhere in many patients' minds, there is a deep-rooted belief that doctors make a lot of money, that they should simply practice medicine and not worry about costs. Just tell me how to get healthy, doctor. I will figure out the rest. And you will figure out the money, right? Doctors do not make a lot of money, and the ones in private practice have the responsibility of everybody else's paycheck and paying their overhead before they pay themselves. And the reason why privately owned independent practices who accept your health insurance plans are dying is because of the very clear factors like lower reimbursement for services, delay in payments from health insurance, and there are more delay in payments received from the patients. There's poor coverage for services the insurance plans offer, which drives many patients to seek the doctor's services, but they don't realize that those services are not covered. They're clogging the schedule. They're hoping their insurance will cover the service, when in reality they don't. The office could simply book the cash-paying patients who already know the cost, would pay promptly up front, then we wouldn't have to deal with this huge backlog of things, right? And you add all that, the rising cost of the workforce, the rising cost of medical supplies, the medical malpractice, which my malpractice has doubled without having any kind of claims in the past 10 years. And it is a wonder that there are still private practices who accept health insurance plans. Now, if you, the patient, would spend the time it takes to become educated in these matters, believe me, it will make your doctor's life so much easier. Obviously, there are many patients who are so grateful for the results and the outcomes. They just show up and they're like, okay, I have to pay, I'll pay. I don't care why I'm paying. But there are patients who ask 10,000 questions, and sometimes they ask the same question over and over again, even if the information has been provided to them. And they seem to refuse to understand they have to pay, and they still expect to receive medical care the same day they refuse to pay the balance on the account. It's very frustrating that the physicians and their staff are so busy on day-to-day patient care, we can't properly educate our patients. Now, very few doctors have podcasts like I do, and very few doctors decide to talk about this on social media. It's not sexy, right? But I would like for you to understand what are the most important factors contributing to the decrease in covered services and benefits, as well as the increased financial burden on yourself. So there are 4 big factors. I'm going to talk about the first 3 in this episode, and I'll reserve the 4th factor for the next week's episode when I will continue on this topic. But the number 1 is the Healthcare Affordable Act. Without doubt, it changed the face of health insurance business in a way that is extremely profound and has shaped the health insurance market and the healthcare for the past 15 to 20 years. there has been a huge, and I mean huge, this is number 2, sorry, I forgot to tell you. There's been a very, very significant increase in monthly health premiums in the past 10 years. This is leaving more and more people crippled financially, especially if they're over the 5th and 6th decade of life, because they need the health insurance. These are the people who cannot go without health insurance. They're too old and too ill. Most of them, remember, 2/3 of Americans have a chronic medical condition, but they can't afford it. And a third very important factor impacting the healthcare market at this point is the significant decrease, a significant decline in covered medical services. Less and less stuff is actually a covered benefit. Even medical services that were covered in the past on the same plan are, surprise, no longer covered, simply because the plan decided to change its rules and regulations overnight. Just like that. Wait a minute, how can they do that, you might say? Well, they have the power, and by buying their plan without asking any questions, without doing any due diligence, or inquiring into whether or not the same services you had last year will be covered the next year, you will have a rude awakening one day when you realize what used to be a benefit is no longer a benefit. Why is this happening? And the doctor's office has to go down the rabbit hole and find out that information for you. Well, here's the truth. The healthcare insurance business is absolutely ruthless. You and many others, everyone else, everybody who is their client are just numbers on a spreadsheet, and the top executives or directors only care about the cost and profit analysis. Most of us, myself included, envy their ruthlessness. Being ruthless makes things so much easier and so much more profitable. Bottom line is, when it comes to health insurance plans, they are a business. They have to make a profit. So they look at their cost, which is simply how many services they have to cover. And the profit really comes very simply from how many medical services and procedures are being denied or not covered, escape, I don't have to pay, and how many clients buy the expensive health insurance premium monthly and pay it every month without ever needing to use it. Please don't believe that the denial of a service or a procedure is individually discussed, that there is a name or a face or a story to go with it. No. Most likely there's a software that's set to detect and deny services automatically, which, especially those that are over a certain threshold or whatever guidelines they programmed to follow. And obviously, this long list of denials will probably receive some additional glance over by an individual claim reviewer, a person, usually a medical health professional, who probably doesn't get paid if they approve 100% of all the medical services, even if they are justified. They have to find a loophole to deny some services for some clients. Period. Remember, it is a business. And do not be deceived by the commercials which are targeting you to choose their plan versus another plan. None of them are good. They all promise a lot and deliver very little. And there's really no humanity in how expensive their premiums have become and how little they cover. Everybody knows there's no love lost between patients and their health insurance, and especially between doctors and health insurance plans. I honestly only accept major PPO health insurance and Medicare in an attempt to allow as many patients as possible to come in and benefit from my knowledge and expertise. I do not want to just practice medicine and help those who can afford me. But solo practitioners and small group practices, privately owned, are being pushed more and more in that direction, as it is the only direction which makes financial sense. Every year it gets harder and harder, and I will tell you more about the why in the next week's episode, but I promise I will hold on for as long as I can. But based on the current outlook, I can only forecast this commitment lasting until the end of 2026. Doesn't mean I will not take insurance in 2027, but it's looking very hard and very difficult. And I will tell you more about my hesitation to continue accepting insurance next year in 2027 in the next week's episode. So come back. I don't want to keep you in suspense, but you will hear some very interesting information. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for trusting me with your time, and thank you for listening to today's episode. If the content I provided wowed you, was helpful and valuable to either you or someone close to you, please do me a favor and leave me a review. I am very open and welcome any kind of feedback as well as suggestions on any content ideas. So please forward those suggestions to Jessica, my patient care coordinator, through our website, herabeautyandwellness.com. And I look forward to our time together next episode.